Welcome back. So I gave everyone a big rant about design fidelity and the proper way to jump into higher fidelity designs and just general visual style exploration and all that fun stuff. And now we're actually going to do that. What I want to do is I want to start with the homepage. I know, big surprise, homepage. But the reason why I like to start with something like the homepage is not always the homepage. But the reason why I do start with the homepage a lot of times is because it's a great place to find a lot of different types of, elements we may incorporate just throughout the entire app. I see like cards here. I just see general variation in terms of typographic elements. I see other elements like iconography. I see our main navigation, and I think like there's also a variation of cards here. We may not even build it like this. I think we're gonna make some changes along the way as well. And that's something to note in general. Designs just never really stay the same. We're constantly iterating based off of what our feedback is in terms of user feedback, also based off of what we think is a better design pattern. So I'm going to make some changes here. I'm going to jump right into a couple of portions of the homepage, and hopefully you design along with me. You don't need to copy me directly, but I'm going to show you just some decisions I'll make in terms of like cards and stuff like that that should help you when you go and create your own. So let's jump right in. I think like I've been talking about this a bunch, and I think we should redo the navigation a bit. I think these options are fine for now, but I really don't like the search at the very top. So I think like we'll just incorporate it in a way where the user can easily just click at the navigation portion and it'll pop into it like an overlay. So let's go ahead and just create like a simple navigation. So I'm gonna just kind of go in here. What I'd like to do is just create like a frame that's gonna house our nav. Let's just rename that to nav. So we're going to create a little nav over here. And we're going to pick some icons. So I like feather icons. They're really nice. So if I go, there's home. It should drop right in there. There it is. There it is. Okay, so home. What else do we have? I think it'll be like under save, or maybe if we just search up heart. There it is. There, perfect. There's search. And when you're picking icons, I know I went over this before when we went through like iconography and stuff like that. Just make sure you're very consistent. You can even create your own like we did. So we have that. Bookmark. Orders? I don't know. Do they have anything for orders? I think like sometimes you just need to create your own, and that's fine. Here, this one can work. And what's next? We need a cart. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So we got all our icons. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our own. There they are. We're going to create a little navigation here. Okay, so that's the shopping cart. Perfect. So these are all 24 pixels. And are they scalable? No, they're not scalable. That's totally fine. What we're just going to do here is we're just going to keep everything the way it currently is in terms of the constraints. This should actually scale properly. There it is. Let's see how this works if we scale it. Okay, so we have our icons, and I'm just going to kind of place them into our frame for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the search more prominent as a piece in terms of our navigation. And I'll tell you in a second why I'm going to do that. So we could do auto layout. I like doing auto layout just because it's a really easy way to lay everything out within your app and within frames in general. So let's do 24 pixels on the side. Actually not. Let's not do an auto layout. I think the best is just a grid. So we'll do a five column grid. I have some grids in here, but I think we're just gonna have to create our own. So let's go ahead and create our own grid. So we're gonna choose a column grid. Right now we should just be kind of flying through here because we've done this so much. So we're just gonna 16. And once again, I'm kind of working off of that baseline that we talked about before when we talked about grids and spacing. Okay, perfect. Let's just resize this frame. So that is nice. Let's go right in. And I'm just gonna center this. What I like to do is like, I'll just go like this. Perfect. Then just bring it back to 24. And even if it's not perfect, that's fine. So we are going to just keep it centered and centered. So it's going to stick to that. Same thing over here. I'm just gonna make sure that centers at 24. And that's gonna be, actually, you know what? The easiest way to do this is just to kind of select them all and fix the constraints all at once. So if this frame gets resized, we won't have to worry about just general resizing issues. So we'll just leave that there because I'm going to come back to that. So if you notice, like right now, I'm not really worried about color. I'm thinking about just hierarchy within the navigation. And what do we have here? We have 24 by 24. And I just want to make sure these are all spaced perfectly within this grid. It may not be perfect, but close enough. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to select my ellipse tool and I'm going to just create a big circle. And I'm going to send that to the back. And as you can tell, I have like color styles set up. So I'm starting to build out a design system slowly, and I have some primary colors, like I mentioned. I have some UI colors, and don't worry, we're going to get into this later. But remember what I told you about just our general color palette. What we can do is we can go into our color, and if we want to reuse it, we can just select that, select create a style, and just write your style out. And the easiest way to do that is just to like write primary slash, I'm just going to call it gold, and there it is. So that's a local style that we have now. And it's just something that's just really easy to use and it'll speed up your workflow. Okay, so I'm just going to select that. So I have a 48 by 48 pixel circle. I'm going to actually go back and select that. That is a white, yes. Okay, I'm gonna turn my grid off right now, just because it's a little distracting. So I'm gonna select all those and I'm gonna just select a nice shade. Oh, that's very light. Remember how we went through just creating neutrals and stuff like that in our color palettes? Similar thing that we're doing right now. And I think that is pretty good. Let's just turn on our grid one more time. So if you want, you can kind of just get that nice. Okay, so this is what I was thinking for our navigation. I think I'm going to have to make that a little smaller. So I'm just gonna go 80 pixels. You notice how all these pieces kind of stay together. That needs to be sent to the center. So remember to always set your constraints. I mean, it just makes your life so much easier. Okay, so these are all set nicely, and I'm going to make sure that everything is centered. So I'm just gonna call this search background, and I'm just going to group that into a frame and call it search. And what we can do here is we can just like, once again, center. Everything stays together. So I think 80 is good. It's also a multiple of our baseline. I think we are missing one more thing, and we are just going to add like maybe like a horizontal rule. I mean, there's a couple ways we can do this. I like using like a rule, or you can use like a shadow. So there's our rule, way too dark. So we're gonna come in here and So there you go. Like we're starting to build a nav out, and I'm really liking it. I'm just making sure there's enough contrast. And we start to look like you can start building that fidelity. Like we start to use icons that maybe are much better for our use case, just for our general application. We're starting to also think about like different types of hierarchy within the navigational structure, whether what is selected. So we'd be on the home screen right now. I think another thing that we should be thinking about is like, what is the micro interaction for an active navigation piece? So there's different ways we can do that. So I'm going to just use like a little line here that will help us just distinguish what is active, what isn't active. Beautiful. So, let me just make sure everything is centered. Perfect. Okay, so that's how you build a really easy navigation. And you can tell, like, based off of what we've been building over time and some of the decisions that you've seen me make, I know I made this based off of a gut feeling, not actual user feedback. And this is just my assumption. The first thing I would do is I would test this before I make like a big leap to just general design. And I would test it again once I get here, just because I need to make sure that this interaction is going to work. So that's it for the navigation. In the next video, I'm going to get into some other UI elements on this homepage that we have over here. This is just our little wireframe. So yeah, meet me back here again, and we will jump right into designing some other elements.